Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So today welcome to this video. Today I want to talk about something that is incredibly dear to my heart. It is a habit that I've had for an incredibly long time, probably my whole life. And because of that, it's always interesting to kind of dive in and find out where these things start. But I think that if you are a human being that exists in our world, you've probably said these phrases at one point in your life for one reason or another. And today we're going to talk about 5 of those reasons and 5 ways we can start to shift out of the habit of not sharing our truth. So, have you ever said that to somebody? Somebody's, oh, I'm going to bring over the mother-in-law, my mother over this weekend, and that's fine with you, right? Oh, yeah, I guess that's fine. Or someone asks how you're feeling about something. Oh, don't worry about me, I'll be fine. Whatever it is, maybe it's a boss at work, a colleague, a sister, friend, brother, family member asking you for something or to do something or to how you feel about something or even just how you feel, how your day was. And that automatic default response of, don't worry, I'm fine. We often do it a lot, and it's something we hear even from others all the time. And there's that second guess in the back there. Are you really fine? Am I really fine? I'm not fine. And what we're actually doing in that moment is avoiding. We're avoiding speaking our truth. Now, I want to define, for the purpose of this conversation today, I do want to define what it means when I say speaking your truth. Because I think that there's a difference between speaking your truth and the truth. And this has kind of been something that's been a hot topic of debate as of late, especially even after last year's Oprah's speech at the Oscars. There was quite a debacle after there, because this was something that she spoke about quite candidly in her speech about speaking your truth and how that is one of the greatest tools that we have. And absolutely 100% it is. But the difference being between speaking your truth and the truth is a pretty big one. So speaking your truth, in my opinion, means that you're speaking what is close to your heart. You're speaking what you feel deep within yourself. You're speaking about what is real and alive for you. Speaking the truth might be more along the lines of scientific fact. It is raining outside. The sky is blue. The grass is not growing in that portion of the lawn and growing in that portion of the lawn. That's speaking the truth. Speaking your truth pertains to articulating what is real and alive for you, be that in your body physically, be that in your heart, be that an emotional, mental, physical, or spiritual thing. So there are 2 different things. And that's important to have in your mind as I begin to share these 5 things. So say hi if you're joining and let me know you're here. And I will backtrack a little bit and I'll just repeat what I just said there. So the definition, speaking about speaking your truth today, and some of the core reasons why we tend to avoid doing that or feeling uncomfortable about doing it. And 5 ways that we can start to shift out of that habit and start to create a new one. But I wanted to define what I mean by speaking your truth versus speaking the truth. And so I'll just quickly recap that. And speaking the truth is something more along the lines of a hypothesis or a scientific fact. And speaking your truth is what is alive for you inside your heart, spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So let's dive in. And if you see me looking down, it's simply because I am checking notes. I've made some notes so I can stay on track because I tend to go onto a tangent and wander sometimes. So just wanting to make sure that I stay on track. And if you can see this lovely painting here behind me, this is done by my father. So for those of you who've seen any of my paintings that I've put up recently, this is where it comes from. So again, like I've said, we've all said, I'm fine. But what are we saying when we're doing that? What is the fear behind that? So let's dive into those 5 typical or standard reasons for a lot of people. And I mean, this is not true. You may resonate with one of these reasons a lot more than the other, or maybe you resonate with all 5 of them. So it's really just take a listen and see which one feels real to you. So the first one is the fear of offending. A lot of times we avoid actually speaking an uncomfortable truth or our very deepest, darkest truth because we're afraid to offend the other person or a group of people. Now, this fear is part of our primal need to connect to and to be a part of a community. When we were banished from the tribe thousands and thousands of years ago, it meant death. So that primal fear of disconnecting from the people that mean the most to us can actually keep us trapped and in that fear of offending someone. We don't want to hurt their feelings. We don't want to come across as someone that's too different from the pack. So it's one of those things that can be pretty debilitating, especially when you're in the workplace. If you've got an idea or a thought that will really help or change the trajectory of a project, and you're too afraid to offend your superiors or whoever it is or colleagues, but you need to say it because it's going to help the project, it can keep you playing safe in a way that doesn't allow you to move forward. So number 2, so that was the first one, was the fear, reasons why we may not be so ready to speak our truth, and we may avoid it and use catchphrases or things like "I'm fine" or "don't worry about it." So the first one was the fear of offending. The second one is not wanting to be judged. And that is so huge for a lot of people, myself included. A lot of times I will not say something for the fear of being judged, for the fear of standing out too much, for being, ridiculed, or like not being seen as smart enough or credible enough or enough of something. So by saying something that I truly feel, it doesn't belong in the category of what's acceptable in that given environment. So holding back is a way of protecting yourself and avoiding that uncomfortable reality of sometimes not everybody agreeing with you. So that's number 2 reason why a large amount of us, a large part of the population in our North American culture, will avoid speaking our truth. So the fear of being judged. Number 3, not wanting to come across as negative. And I think this is a really big one. And not just, I'm going to speak to women because I do predominantly work with women, but I really feel that this is a huge one for women, not wanting to come across as negative. We have been taught, for most of us, from day one, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And while there is some truth and some validity to, there's no need to be unnecessarily rude or mean, that does take away a feeling of safety with speaking our uncomfortable truths or things that maybe we've never spoken out loud before. So that fear of, or the desire to not want to come across as negative or mean or rude is also a piece of what can keep us. Hi Laura, I see that you just popped on there. It is a part of what can keep us sort of trapped in not sharing our truth. So if you've just joined me, I see there's a few watching now. Say hi, give me maybe a show of likes or anything. Just let me know that you're watching. And right now what I'm diving into is 5 reasons why we can hold back from sharing our truth, from speaking something that is a lie for us. And I've defined at this point our truth or your truth as something that is a lie for you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually and physically, rather than something like the truth, which is maybe more of a scientific, fact of some kind, as in like it is snowing outside or it is raining outside. They are 2 different things. So that's an important context for this conversation. So the first two, fear of offending someone, their desire to not be judged. And the third one was to not come across as mean or negative. And I think that is a pretty real one. And then it's a real one for me. I don't know if you guys experience that, let me know. Raise your hand or a show of likes or even a sad face, because it's not, it can keep you sort of trapped. And even in parenting, you know, not wanting to be the bad guy all the time as a parent. So number four reasons why we may avoid sharing our truth, which in our minds we could think would be uncomfortable for someone, and sometimes it's even uncomfortable for ourselves. Number 4 is a sense of why bother. And I think this one is big. This is big for me, and I know because my father growing up, and still to some degree he is this way, is very opinionated, is very forward with those opinions. So to speak out loud something that might be different, that sense of why would I bother, because I'm just going to get told I'm wrong, or it's just going to not translate, or it's like that sense of it's futile, like doing this will not make a difference, so why would I bother? And that, I think that can probably be the most damaging of them all, because it creates this habit of giving your power away constantly, of self-censorship out of a need to be safe and keep yourself protected and not wanting that backlash that can follow you everywhere, be it in your friendships, your romantic relationships, in your profession, any of these places where a fear or a sense of, if I say this, why bother? It keeps us trapped. We can't, and especially in the workplace, if we're not going to, if we feel like, let's say you've got a micromanager type boss or employer, and you feel that if you share something like, hey, this would really help the team if we did it this way, or if we approached it this way, and if you have that feeling that no matter what I say to this person, it's not going to come across, they're not going to hear me, it makes it very difficult to feel significant in your role and to feel significant in your relationships. So it takes that power away and creates that habit of self-censorship that can be debilitating. So number 5, we've got one more reason. And this one, I think, is another one for me that is really alive and really real. And I've seen this in my past romantic relationships. I've seen it also in my relationship with my parents and previous employers too. But the fear of the repercussions. So if you know someone's got a hot temper, or someone is really can blow off the handle in a negative way, or even the other way, maybe someone isn't necessarily so stable emotionally and they get really, really sad, and for a lot of their own reasons, but you avoid speaking an uncomfortable truth, or just your truth, in avoiding the aftermath, in avoiding the repercussion of what might happen if I say this to this person. And that's crippling, because again, it's creating a habit of self-censorship that, when you look at a relationship, especially if it's a family member that way, over time those relationships crumble and they lose their foundation, because the lack of honesty and transparency and real connection that is lost when you avoid speaking your truth and you censor yourself and you start to cocoon and protect and they're valid reasons a lot of times. When you look back into your childhood and maybe you had a parent that you constantly got in trouble if you spoke your truth. You constantly were put grounded. You were constantly had things taken away from you. You constantly were yelled at, screamed, whatever it was. if that was your reality, especially before you're 7 years old, when so many of those patterns are sort of nailed down, it was born out of a sense of safety, out of keeping yourself safe. So actually, at the time, it made a lot of logical sense. And as a kid, you're making a smart decision. However, as an adult and, moving forward, making your own decisions and building your own capacity in life, it becomes a hindrance. So those were our 5 reasons or huge, like very real psychological and emotional, physical, spiritual fears and deep realities, we'll call them, that can hold us trapped and keep that lack of expression, or the fear of speaking our truth, or the avoidance of really saying how we really feel alive. It keeps that alive. So I'm just going to repeat those again before I dive into what we can start to do about it and start changing that. Okay, so and let me know in the comments below which one of these really you find is maybe 1 or 2 of them that you find yourself doing a lot and is really something that is real for you. So the first one was a fear of offending. So fear of offending comes from that deep fear of not wanting to break a connection with someone. So if, especially this can be really real in family and also in the workplace. If you have that fear of offending someone, that's that primal fear of being rejected out of the group, out of the pack, and being cast out. So the need to not want to lose the connection in that relationship is that fear, becomes that fear of offending. I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to push them away. Number 2, not wanting to be judged. And this one is really real for me. So, not wanting to have people put a label on you, not wanting to have people say, you are not enough, you're not smart enough, what are you talking about, you don't know what you're doing. Not wanting to have that, now this is a concrete way that I think about you because you've shared what's real for you. Number 3, not wanting to come across as negative or not wanting to be mean. It's that, hi Karina, I see you popped on there. It's that desire to, it's that age-old saying of, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. And I mean, again, like I said, there's some validity to that. We don't need to be rude or do need to be mean, but sometimes we need to say things that are real, and sometimes they are uncomfortable. So if we have this very real people-pleasing fear of not wanting to be seen as negative or someone who rocks the boat, we're going to avoid, and we're going to keep our truth and the things that are alive for us inside a lot more than someone who doesn't necessarily have that fear. Number 4 was a sense of why bother, a sense of this, sharing this, bringing this to the table is futile. It's not going to make a difference. So if you feel that way and you feel like someone's just going to dismiss it, someone's not going to listen, that can be, they just kind of shuts it down before it even gets to the point where you have the words to articulate it. Number 5 is a fear of the repercussions. And these sort of build on one another, as you can see, but that number 5 is huge. So it kind of goes part and parcel with the fear of being judged, where if you feel the person who you're speaking to or sharing this with is going to get mad, they're going to tell you that you're silly, they're going to dismiss it, they're going to just blow up, they're going to not take you seriously, they're going to leave, they're going to or even the other way, get really sad, get really hurt and emotional about it, and that could be for a variety of reasons. So we tend to, especially, I think that families who are dealing with grief, families who are dealing with really hard things in life, can really struggle with this one here, right? Is that fear of what's going to happen when I say this, and even though I know it needs to be said, what's going to happen when I do? And so that's it's real, and that fear that you feel, that anxiety in the heart, in the chest, in the limbs, is a real pain and a real fear. So your body's telling you, based on whether this is a learned thing from your childhood or a recent experience, that it's not safe to say this. So it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. So let's shift to the bright side. Let's shift and look at how we can start to change these habits, because a lot of them are habits, and a lot of times our thought process isn't necessarily warranted. It's just a really ingrained pattern, and that the fear of fear, or the fear of panic, or the fear of anxiety, and the anticipatory anxiety of it all takes over, and it can become something that our nervous system isn't necessarily responding. I don't want to use the word accurately, but it's responding in a way that can be detrimental, and it's not necessarily the case. So I'm going to just flip my page here, got my notes down here so I don't go off too topic here. So here we go. Here's our 5 solutions. So the first one, and this one I love because I think it's really important. And again, these start to build on what we're doing and what we're creating. So number 1, stay connected. And again, this comes back to that first one where the fear of disconnection and losing the connection from someone is a huge piece of it. So this is again so much based in that primal fear of being dismissed or rejected from the tribe. And so it's really important to start and express the love, stay connected in the conversation. Stay connected by offering your appreciation for having the opportunity to share what you need to share, and even welcoming the other person or group of people to share what they need to share. So it's about articulating and being able to create that space and welcome it in and stay connected throughout the process. So it can be helpful to just even take that break and say, I'm so grateful that we have this opportunity, that you're willing to listen, because it brings the emotion back in of staying connected with the person in front of you or group. So number 2, it builds on this staying connected, but it's about voicing that. And if you're a person who has a hard time articulating how you feel, whether it is uncomfortable and maybe kind of feels negative, or is really joyful and positive and feels overwhelmingly amazing, I mean, the spectrum goes both ways. It can be difficult to voice how you actually feel. So saying that, I really appreciate the opportunity to do that. Thank you for loving me enough to listen to me. I welcome your opinion because I love you and I want to know what you have to say and how you feel about it. Being able to voice that takes a lot of pressure off, and it starts to actively work on what we're trying to achieve, but with these solutions, is getting the truth up and out. It makes it a safe place to do that if you're able to voice it and say it out loud, even in that kind of preamble of I want to share this with you because I want our connection to be real and honest and authentic. That is where this is coming from. Even just saying that goes so far. Now, this one I love too, and I think that you have to be really great at articulating and listening. This number 3 calls on your listening skills. So number 3 is to name the difference and then ask permission. And this goes something like this. I understand this is how you feel about this situation, and name what the person has shared. I have a different opinion about it. Can I share that with you? By doing this, you're showing the other person that you've heard them, that you've witnessed what they have to say. And in the giving of that, and then asking to be able to share your different perspective, you will be able to, more often than not, receive the opportunity to share what is really real for you in a much safer and a much more even playing field, equal playing field. So that was number 3, name the difference and ask permission to share your different version. I love that, Laura. Thank you for calling yourself out. That's beautiful. And that's true. Absolutely. So Laura says, my issue in doing this is that I might say I want to listen and hear, but really I don't want to hear it. And thank you for being honest about that, because I think that's probably very accurate for a lot of people who are, yeah, really, I just actually don't care, and I just need to say what I need to say, and I still think it's wrong, or I still think it doesn't matter, or it's not relevant, and that's all very real, and especially if we're in an emotional situation, especially if we're in physical pain, that feeling of impatience or like I don't actually really care is real. And you know what I might suggest in that case, because I think that is, as you've said and as I've echoed, a very real thing. You might even call yourself out in that. I really recognize that it's important that we both speak here. I'm having a hard time listening because I am eager to share what I need to share, and I'm feeling angry right now. And so being able to call yourself out just as you did, Laura, and speak that truth right there, you're already doing that. So you're able to be incredibly transparent and very real and vulnerable in the moment. And I believe that will only build deeper and bigger trust over time, because then the other person or group might be able to feel that they can do the same thing. Thank you for sharing that. So number 4 is to do an inventory. And I kind of like this one because it pumps you up. It gives you a little bit of a recognize. Thank you, Laura. Yes. Awesome. I'm glad you found that valuable. So number 4, doing an intervention. No, not that. An inventory. So kind of going back in your experience, and what this means is to sort of pull out the times and opportunities where you actually did speak your truth. So you're in a conversation with someone, it could be anyone, boss, teacher, coach, partner, friendship, whatever it is, and you did articulate how you felt, and you were able to speak your truth. Taking an inventory of when that went well and the results of that, and also it's helpful to look at an inventory of when it didn't go so well, or when you didn't speak your truth and you wish that you had. So it gives you a perspective of what happens in a positive way when I do speak my truth. Oh, I feel heard. I don't feel resentful after. I don't feel heavy because I've been able to get things out. A lot of really positive things happen when we're able to be transparent that way. And on the flip side, when I don't, what happens? Oh, I still feel icky. I think about it for days after. I get resentful when the other person continues to do the behavior, or I'm still in pain, or I go to work the next day and the same shit's happening over and over again. So we can start to take an inventory and get very real about what's happening in our reality when we A, do speak our truth, versus B, avoid it. And that builds on number 5. By doing that reflection and by going back in and sort of seeing what does work and what doesn't work, what we can do, this one I think is my absolute favorite. Number 5 is ask for a redo. You'll love that because it speaks to the power of now. That no matter what, we can always work with the present, and we can always change things if we're willing to do the hard work. Because for a lot of people, myself included, thinking about going back into a situation that was already awkward or already uncomfortable and reevaluating it and going through it again sounds flippin' miserable. But if you're willing to do that inventory work, take the time to reflect and really reassess about what you actually did need to say and wanted to say. You're giving yourself time to articulate it in a way that actually makes sense to you, and actually in a calm, much more calm and relaxed environment. It allows you to pull together what you really needed to say. And in that, it gives you the opportunity to go to the group of people, go to the person, go in whatever it is, whatever context, and allows you to ask, hey, thank you for sharing how you feel. And I have, upon reflection, realized that there's some things that I would really like to say and didn't have an opportunity to do so before. Then you can respectfully engage in a conversation that allows you to actually articulate how you have felt, what you really wanted to say, but didn't have the capacity to do it before because maybe you were too emotionally involved, or you were in too much physical pain, or it wasn't the right environment. Whatever the reason was, you can come back and redo that. I think that one's my favorite because it really it's to me it's positive, and it also just really puts what's this the word I'm looking for? It really lets you know that nothing is set in stone. It doesn't mean that it's permanent. You can go back and you can have a new conversation around it. Now, not everybody, we can't always take back what we're saying, but we can explain it deeper. We can be more respectful about it. We can help someone else understand what we really did mean by that, or this or that. So let's review those one more time. Number one, to stay connected. So engage in eye contact. Maybe there's a way that you can connect by physically touching the other person. Maybe there's a way that you can really connect with the human being so you don't feel that you're being left alone, or that you're sort of swimming in the soup of trying to figure this out by yourself. It therefore kind of enabling that primal fear of, oh my God, what's going to happen if I'm rejected here. Number two, building on that, is to voice that connection. So maybe you're able to engage in eye contact, maybe you can touch, but to voice, and I think this one is probably the most important, to voice that connection is incredibly important because it creates that safe space. So again, that could look like that preamble of, thank you for sharing how you feel. I really am grateful for the opportunity for us to have these kinds of conversations, and thank you for letting me speak to my truth. So being able to voice that. Number three, name the difference and ask permission to speak something different. Here's how you feel. I have heard you. This is what it is. I have a different opinion. Can I share that with you? Number four, do an inventory. Go back and look in your life at when you did share how you felt and the positives of that, and when you didn't, and what do you wish you would have done differently and why? So being able to do that gives you that opportunity to reflect on why it's important and how good you actually do feel when you do share your truth. And building on that, number five, asking for the redo. Hey, I've had some time to really reflect on the conversation we had earlier. I was wondering if you could give me an opportunity to share a little bit more about how I actually feel and what I really wish that I had said in that time. And then you respectfully and with kindness, of course, divulge and share and speak to that truth. So there we have it, guys. Thanks for those of you who've watched, who've stuck it out with me the whole time. If you've got any comments, questions, or anything at all, just let me know in the comment section. And if you're watching the replay, leave your comments and questions in there too. I will get back to them. So again, we chatted today about what it means to speak your truth versus the truth, defining between those two. We've dived into 5 pretty core and relevant reasons for a lot of people as to why they don't typically speak their truth. And we've also looked at ways that we can shift into learning step by step in baby steps, because each one of these is a baby step, on how we can start to more positively, with a lot of loving kindness and with opening communication, start to speak our truth. And if you're interested in hearing one woman's account of how she was starting to able to do this and why it was important to her, I've actually shared an article just recently on my page here about those words, "I'll be fine," and the connection to people pleasing and why a lot of us do that. So if you've liked this, stay tuned. I'm going to start doing this a little bit more regularly. So those of you who are watching, you've connected to my page, and I hope to see you all out there again. And join me again for some more dialogue. And for those of you again watching the replay, please leave your comments, questions, thoughts, things that are real for you relating to sharing your truth. I love to hear what's going on for you guys, so we can all stay connected and start to share our truths more together. So have a wonderful Thursday, rest of your Thursday, and a great upcoming weekend, everyone. Ciao.